Welcome back to Out of the Blue, the podcast, where real people share real stories of resilience, hope, and the incredible power of the human spirit. I'm your host, Vernon West, joined today by my son, Vernon West III, a gifted musician and creative visionary who brings his own spark to these conversations. Today's guest is someone whose mission is as personal as it is powerful. A man who turned heartbreak into a lifelong calling and who has built a movement that now reaches thousands across the country. We are honored to welcome Dr. George Ackerman. George is originally from Brooklyn, New York, now living in Florida, and he's dedicated his life to service, working in law, policing, and education. But everything changed on January 1st, 2020, when George lost his beloved mother, Sharon Riff Ackerman, to Parkinson's disease. In the midst of grief, George made a promise to keep his mother's memory alive and to fight for a world without Parkinson's. From that promise came Together for Sharon, a family-driven mission devoted to Parkinson's awareness, education, and hope for a cure. What began as a tribute to his mother has grown into a nationwide platform, one that now reaches thousands through interviews with foundations, researchers, caregivers, and Parkinson's warriors whose stories deserve to be heard. George has also documented this journey in his powerful book, A Son's Journey from Parkinson's Disease Caregiver to Advocate, inspiring countless families walking their own path through Parkinson's. George says, I'm on a mission, and nothing will ever stop me until there is a PD cure. Nothing. And today, we're grateful to stand beside him in that mission. So settle in. This is a conversation filled with heart, purpose, and the unstoppable love of a son determined to change the world one story at a time. This is Dr. George Ackerman, and this is Out of the Blue, the podcast. Hi, Dr. George Ackerman. Welcome to Out of the Blue.
Well, thank you, your son, and actually all your listeners for the time today. Really means the world to me, and my mother continues, at least our memory, to live on through both of you, but also if we even reach one person today that might feel alone like I did and my mother, then we've changed the world also for them. So thank you both again.
You're so welcome. I mean, I personally have known someone who had Parkinson's, and it was, heartbreaking. It's a heartbreaking condition, illness.
And it's
And
incredibly common too. This is definitely something that a lot of people will find comfort in.
It's kind of sad in a way of my advocacy because I never dreamt I'd be doing this or writing a book about or any books or having to put 24/7 into this. But as we are speaking, I was shocked to find out every 20 minutes somebody's diagnosed today with Parkinson's, and this is a worldwide epidemic. We have approximately 1 million people diagnosed in the U.S., but they believe, and shockingly, in only 10 to 15 years, it'll be 20 million. So it's going to go from 1 to 20 in just a few years. And that's just the United States. We have 10 million out of the U.S. who also become my family because I don't feel anyone should ever feel alone in this fight for a cure, no matter where you're located.
amen. That's what this is all about. That's why, of course, out of the blue, we stand with you in this mission. We want to definitely get that out there. Yeah, it touches my heart deeply. And I can only imagine, having your mom. So you really, really, it's just commendable and, of course, and highly amazingly inspirational that you've taken this on.
I think there's probably 80 million people, unfortunately, who lost a loved one or friend or in a community member to Parkinson's. They just weren't aware. In today's show and any work that we all do together, I feel is changing and bringing more awareness because there might not be a cure, but there are other methods and things to do and to take that people still are not aware of.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, they are making some strides. Do you know anything about the things they're doing in the research and development of that?
I've had I started out at togetherforsharon.com thinking it would be a website with 3 or 4 people see it, and I would be happy with that. Unfortunately, as the disease grows, so does the advocacy. And I had the honor just a few months ago to actually be selected by the Michael J. Fox Foundation to be one of 200 advocates from across the country to go to the Capitol. So I was at the Capitol advocating to politicians, no matter the side, because this is not a disease that discriminates. It affects people across genders, race, countries, states, and we have to again really voice to the politicians because they have an imaginary key to unlock funding. And this year, unfortunately, funding has been cut significantly, which is really tragic for the Parkinson's community. But I'm just signed on to go back to DC in March. Last week, though, I had the honor to meet with Mr. Michael J. Fox again. I met him before, and we in just one night at an event he put on in New York City raised $4 million for awareness. But in Mr. Fox's time, he's been battling it over 25 years, but he created a foundation to help with awareness, and they've actually that night or so far, not that night, but in the last 25 years they raised over 1 billion. But so that's incredible. But I still
Unbelievable. Yeah.
wish we had. We still don't have a cure, which is why it's tough. Every journey is different. So what happened to my mother does not mean that's what will happen to somebody listening or someone else's loved one. But since my mother passed only now 6 years, they created something called a biomarker, which was discovered through research just 2 years ago. Now you can, and it's kind of harsh, but you can have an injection in the back, and they take fluid from your spine. I've had enough back surgery, so I won't be participating. But it's where the goal is to determine if you have Parkinson's, so you can be treated properly. There's been a lot of misdiagnosis, and guess what? If you treat someone with the wrong illness or a disease, that's tragic too.
Right.
And also, the dream, really, though, at least now for science and medical field, is that we can someday get to where it's a minor blood test in every doctor's office throughout the nation to be able to determine. Because right now, there's no actual test for Parkinson's. They just do a few little gestures and other things, but that's very complicated and very bad when you want to, know what your loved one has or what that person has. So you can treat it properly. So that's been one of the toughest right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. That thing with the needle in the spine reminds me of a lumbar puncture. I've had a lumbar puncture with leukemia. It's similar to they stick a needle in your spine between your vertebrae and get some of that spinal fluid out, and they examine it. But very uncomfortable. Obviously, not a fun test. But if they find a way to at least whatever determine if it's a case of Parkinson, right? That's the main focus of that particular test.
Yeah, because right now we don't believe, we're not sure it's a genetic. We do, I feel, and many agree that it's environmental. So whether it's the pesticides, they just did a study which is also frightening. I'm in Florida, and they said it could be caused by golf courses. So we have one on every block. So
Oh my
it might be,
goodness.
the water. Also, this Camp Lejeune, which is a famous lawsuit. The military and their families were getting Parkinson due to the water that was, chemicals in the water there, and the families were affected. But I do think environmental. I was shocked to find out of one of the nation's leading doctors for Parkinson's said on my show that you can actually possibly get Parkinson's from the dry cleaner. And while he was saying that, I was thinking of ways to remove my shirt instead of that. It's frightening. So now what we do, and there's ways you take, if anyone listening, if you have dry cleaning, just take it out of the plastic, let it air out for 10 minutes outside. It might stop it. So a lot of doctors are now saying and making claims, which some people are shocked. Some people agree that this is actually something that can be prevented. Right now, there's a chemical, it's poison called paraquat. It's banned in every single country except, I believe, Australia and the US. And they're just not banning it. So we go back to DC each year to ask them to ban it. There's two reasons we just spoke. You can get banned that'll stop a lot of this. Can fix some of the pesticides sprayed on our food that our children and babies' future are eating. We do every day. There are a lot of things that are happening, but people need to write their legislators and demand them for change.
Right. So if you listen, and please let's think about that. Let's get on our horses and do something. It's up to us to affect this change. I mean, we put people in government. We shouldn't just like let them go automatic pilot. So this is what we should be doing. We should get everybody motivated to do something like that, because if this is environmental, and if it can be regulated, if government can set regulations in place to stop paraquat from becoming, commonly used, not to mention like how it must appear in vegetables and fruits, and with Parkinson's, the research is getting to the point where you've got a good idea of what you got, at least some solid proof. I think paraquat is definitely not on the that's not on a good list. That's on the not good list, right? That's the list we got to do something about.
And also the the bug sprays too in the home. And I think that's what my mother, she had no medical issues. She was perfectly fine. And then she was diagnosed for 15 years. We didn't know, though. I didn't even know Parkinson's was a disease till the last four, because we were told by 15 specialists that you don't die of Parkinson's, you die with it. So we were kind of humming along and thinking that it stinks, but it still she'll be with us. And then all of a sudden, if you read the book, which I'm going to get you both a copy, but she went for a trial, which we recommend trials. That's how we find cures. But she came home that night, and I got a call. I'm in Florida. My father's in New York. Said, call at 4 a.m. Rush over to your mother's house. I didn't know what was going on or why, because nothing. This never happened. Well, I reached her home at 4 a.m. Even with law enforcement background, I wasn't prepared to find. My mother was moving her furniture out of her home, so I asked her what was wrong, and she said she thought there were Nazis in the house and they were going to harm her. And we don't know if they changed the medication too drastically, but it caused hallucinations and delusions. And some people, due to Parkinson's, or side effects. So that was really that was the start and the down slide of my mother, unfortunately, illness, disease accelerating, and we don't understand why it was so quickly. But she went from someone who could walk a few miles a week to 2 years of a cane, then a year of a walker, then wheelchair, and then the last 7 days she was bedbound and only had a heartbeat, which Florida, not sure why we don't have the law for death with dignity like New Jersey and other states do. So I don't think there's really anything ever in my life going forward that'll be as tragic as those last, 7 days of her life.
Oh my God, George, my heart breaks. It really does. I go, and I will say this: people should realize that it can happen to you. You are not. It happens everywhere. It has nothing to do with socioeconomics. It has nothing to do with even heredity. Everybody is susceptible to this. We need to realize that. And you're saying it's going to be 20 million. I mean, that is an alarming number. That should set off bells in everybody's heads. And but the problem I see with the podcast Out of the Blue, we've brought a lot of things to raise awareness in different types of uh, traumas. And what I find is that the stigma of these things makes people want to not talk about it, makes them want to forget it, like put it in a corner somewhere until it hits them. Until it hits their own family. And then it's too late. We have to become aware that this is a family. We are all in one big family. And so sooner we get that mindset, we're going to be dealing with this kind of stuff. We need to listen to Dr. George Ackerman, everybody, and follow the lead. That we have to care and go out there and do something about it.
I want to thank you both because I love the name of your show. That's what attracted me to it, because I felt like, Parkinson's literally came out of the blue. Like, I don't think I can name this even. I have to name the show and your show the same thing this week, because it was just something that changed my life forever. And not to get too long into it, but I don't blame the doctors. I don't blame, the people we've met. I blame the disease. And I kind of don't want to, but 24/7 all I could think about is making sure my mother's not forgotten because of the disease, but in her memory, we fight for everyone else and all the other families, because I don't want them to go through this. My mother and I thought she was the only one in the world who had Parkinson's, because we didn't have anyone, we didn't know anyone, we weren't aware. That was the problem. I didn't even know that Parkinson's was actually a disease till it was kind of too late. So I shifted. My whole life was geared towards the world of law enforcement. I became an attorney, worked at the prosecutor's office, then became a police officer, And then I did my PhD in criminal justice, which changed my life for the better because I was able to work with a group of African American mothers who lost their loved one due to murder in West Palm Beach, Florida. So I finally got to work with, people who lost, a huge part of them. And I found the only way they were able to get back into the world and still live after such a loss was through faith, religion and community. Because without those pieces, they would never be able to do that. And I do it now today through advocacy. And again, just meeting both of you today and your audience will help me also cope because I'm still grieving even 6 years later.
Of course you are. I mean, I am also actually, I'm very empathetic, and I just, yeah, I'm feeling a lot about this myself, but nothing compared to you, of course. But I definitely feel that this community is everything. We have to be that community, sense of community that's helping the women in South Florida that you're talking about. That's so important. Community is very much what Art of the Blue is about. Like we say we're starting a resilience movement, but it's a community. It's a community of people that don't want to see anybody suffer alone. There's no need to have any kind of suffering by yourself. There's somebody out there that's been through that can help you, talk to you, and maybe even just make you not feel so unique. Because that's a painful aspect. It separates us from healing. Like I noticed that when I have my own pain and suffering, I felt unique. I felt separated from communities. It's like you look at a what do they call them? See a bunch of animals, what of a pride of lions or something. But when one of them gets sick, they go off by themselves. They know what I mean? It's almost like a natural instinct to separate yourself from the community because you feel ill. I see my cat. I've had a cat do that. When it got sick, it would go hide under the couch because for some reason they're embarrassed or ashamed to be sick. That's got to stop. We have to say, we have to welcome anybody suffering and we have to be there for them because that's what it's all about. That's what life is about. I found that's the whole reason I do it out of the blue because when I got to the point where I thought I was going to, well, I did beat leukemia. When I got to the point where I knew I was going to come out the other end and standing or at least alive, um, I said I wanted to pay it forward. And I was inspired by the words out of the blue that everybody that's gotten any kind of serious illness or anything, it always seems to come out of the blue. And I felt like, how can we take something from out of the blue and turn it into something that connects us? Because it is something that can connect us. And I think that's the essence of your Together for Sharon is about connection. It's about connecting with other people out there who don't know about Parkinson for one thing, raising awareness, and possibly people out there that have that in their family in their life, that feel that aloneness. So that's why it's so wonderful what you're doing. I really just can't say enough. Tell us a little more about how you're doing that and what you're doing in Florida now with your career, and any more information on that we can share.
Yeah, I mean, every year I kind of don't have a plan on purpose. I hope we could find a cure and I could stop it all. But I am excited. There's a lot of big things. We actually published, I don't want to say last, but I think it might be the last of the children's books coming in January because I have 3 children and I still have trouble explaining what happened to their grandmother. So I wrote a few books as we spoke. The first one was about my mother and our journey. But as I was thinking, as I was advocating, I was realizing there's some areas that are just missing, that no one is speaking about. One is lack of awareness in law enforcement and policing. That's a whole different show. There was one where I felt as an advocate, it wasn't always easy. I've actually had very odd things. You think you get into advocacy, it'll be simple, easy. Had doors slammed in my face, people not want to speak, others, the media not really caring, politicians shutting their door. But no matter what they all said, I just keep kicking and pushing and crawling and can't give up. And sometimes, some way, the door will even open a little. I'm traveling now, which I didn't want to do because it's very expensive. I do all this voluntary, but we've our family donated last year like $50,000 to different organizations. I can't keep all this up, but also I can't say much, but there's a chance we might be doing our first ever walk for Together for Sharon with support of my police department in the city I work for, and that might be bigger than anything. I've never done a live event on purpose because it's a lot. You have your reputation. I don't want to deal with money and things, but we'll be picking an organization to everything will go completely to them. I don't do this, for money. I just do it for awareness. And the last thing is I'll be traveling to Arizona in May. It's not easy because again, it's hard to travel. I've had a lot of my own medical issues, but there's something called the World Parkinson Congress, and it's every 2 years, I believe, and it's usually not in the U.S. It's out around the world, where all advocates, doctors, scientists, researchers in the Parkinson's community get together for a conference. But it's the only one like it, and it's just where everyone comes together. I'll be meeting. I've interviewed now 2,000 people written and 350 on my show. It's called Q&A with Sharon St. George, where I sit one-on-one with actually now celebrities. We've had some Bernie Kosar, the famous football player, has been on. I have another famous comedian coming next year. Had politicians. U.S. Senator Rick Scott's been on. So we're reaching places, people. But I just don't feel even if I do it day and night, it's enough because as you saw earlier, the numbers are just people diagnosed are growing. So I feel like it's almost like a hammer or that little what's that video game where you bop the little golf.
Yeah, whack-a-mole.
Yeah, I feel like I'm the mole. Like every time I jump up for air, I hit again. But that's how it felt in a way, even when I was helping my mother. And I just wanted to say one thing: if you're not aware, everyone of Parkinson's disease. It is the fastest growing neurodegenerative disease in the world. But what it does is a few of the quick symptoms and signs you might see is tremors. Now, not everyone has external tremors, some have internal. External would be like the famous actor Michael J. Fox, who's a hero of mine. He has external tremors, so sometimes it's hard to stop. You'll see him in interviews where he just is moving. Same thing with Muhammad Ali, and recently, unfortunately, we lost another beloved Parkinson's warrior. We call him Ozzy Osbourne. He also was battling Parkinson's. So, in a way, I do this too, so they are never forgotten. But some other symptoms are handwriting becomes smaller, loss of smell, very bad sleeping, sometimes stiffness and balance issues. So the 5 stages of Parkinson's. So the first 2 or 3 are where you can still live independently, but it starts to get a little bit more troublesome. And one thing we worried about a lot with my mother is we never wanted her to fall, because if she fell, that would have been the end of a lot of this. Even trying to support her, because that was going to now affect so many other areas. But so for the stages 1 to 3, I often say you might see some of these other areas like soft or low voice, something called facial masking. So if you're speaking to someone, they might look like they're not listening or really able to make an expression, but they are. Also, some sadly dizziness, fainting, stooping, hunching over, and one of the ones we don't talk about a lot is constipation. A lot of times, my mother was up 24/7, so we had to hire staff, like, literally, to make sure she, was able to just be kind of feel safe. Then you add on the hallucinations and delusions, and she thought every person we hired was going to harm her. So that was just adding to it. And then as a caregiver, you also go through your own stages, which there's no such thing, but I went through everything from fear, depression, stress, anxiety, you name it, just to figure out a way to help her. But the 5 stages, as you get to the last 3 or last 2 are the toughest. That's when person might even fall, might have trouble walking. So stability is an issue. And I'll never forget one of the saddest days of my life was making a decision that I had to take my mother's car keys away because I felt she could be a danger to herself or someone else. So when you live alone and independently for 20, 30 years, the only thing you have is independence. And you take someone's car and she's not arrested or criminal or anything, then that's it. So there's just so many topics. So, and then the last stage, again, 5, is where they, almost towards the very end, my mother was almost, just not with us. She couldn't really eat, couldn't talk. And it was, it's almost like a disease that's gradual, but the problem is no stages are the same for anyone. So that's why we have no cure because everybody's, journey is so different.
Yep, I can see that this would be hard to diagnose. People might be dealing with it and not even be aware of it.
And one thing we're trying to get rid of is the misconception it's an elderly white man disease because that's what we thought in the beginning. But now women are getting it. I had an interview with a young lady who was actually pregnant while she had Parkinson's, and those are questions and issues that need to be also addressed so that women don't feel alone. Also, African American population, other population, this disease doesn't again discriminate. It affects everyone.
Well, this is really helpful for people out there to understand that these stages aren't necessarily the first three are probably something you wouldn't even think I have Parkinson's or somebody has Parkinson's. But if they go in, they can get this kind of test now.
Yeah, the thing with the test this is great is that we don't have a cure, but we do know that sports and exercise, and I wrote a book on it, but it can slow the progression. Now, again, it's not guaranteed, but so let's say, well, guess what? If you don't know you have Parkinson's, you're not going to be able to even slow anything. So let's say, you're just found out, well, you can get on a little program. I mean, we should all be doing this, even if we didn't have Parkinson's, even the caregivers, but something you could do with your loved one, and together you can do it. But exercise. I wrote a book. It's actually 30 stories of 30 sports, and they're all told by different people who have Parkinson's. And I did that, and I didn't accept anything. Like literally, all the money goes to them because I didn't want people to have to pay for their own medicines. So what the goal with that book is, we have sports out there, but if someone hates a sport, many times, like my mom, they say, you know what, sports is not for me, and they shut the door, and that's it. Well, what I'm trying to show is if you hate one sport, there's still 30 or 100 more. Why not go try something else? Don't just give up. So I didn't even know they have, ping pong for Parkinson's, we have pickleball, bowling, tennis. There's so many
That's
golf.
right.
There's groups out there now doing things. There's, walks. Because I had 4 back surgeries. I have a trike. Some people don't know it. That's where you like kind of lay down and you use a bike, but it's like more reclined. But anyway, so just you got to keep exercising. So they do think the science shows it can slow the progression. So maybe that person would have several more years, and that's important. But again, we're not sure who is at what stage, and it also you have to see your own specialist, a movement specialist. Anything I say is not science and not medical, so I want to make sure I always. It's just my experience through my mother and our caregiving.
But you seem to be making good strides in this area. Michael J. Fox is an amazing human being. He's raised awareness so much to Parkinson's. I mean, I can say that I myself am a fan of Michael, and I remember when he got Parkinson's many years ago, and my heart broke then. But he's been so courageous and strong, and I think that desire to spread the word and help people with that has kept him going. I mean, I can see that as an advocate. Would you say that helps you to keep going? I mean, I know how much pain it must be every day to think about what your loss, but by advocating, wouldn't you say that? How does that work into your life?
Yeah, I think without it, I wouldn't even make it. That's the honest opinion. And every time I meet somebody like today, my mother kind of lives on in her memory. And every interview I do, an inspiring person. I had a guest, 2 gentlemen. There's actually 4 of them. They got in a boat and they literally, with nothing, a little teeny boat. It almost looks like a rowboat. They paddled their way to past Hawaii around the world and raised money for Michael J. Fox Foundation. They've raised like $30 million in just this. And one of the gentlemen on the boat had Parkinson's and didn't give up, and they documented it. And it's just they were on my show, which was an honor. But those stories, those people, that's what keeps me going. And knowing, unfortunately, there's still people out there struggling. But also, the only journey that breaks my heart today is the one that I'm not aware about, because there are people out there I don't know. I'm only one person. Some people joke and come to me and say, can they get an interview or this or that? And it's like they think we're a whole corporation, but it's just me. So they like, I just don't give up and I don't stop. I mean, sometimes my own, the famous saying, which I'm tired of hearing, is as a caregiver, you have to take care of yourself before your loved one. I never did that caring for my mother because we didn't know how much time she had. And I'm glad I didn't take even a minute away because then I would have missed that minute. There's no even politics is not an issue. Last year was the first bill, U.S. history in December, that passed through the former President Biden. It swept right through the Senate and the House like nothing I've ever seen. Fully unanimous to vote to pass the national plan to end Parkinson's because it's not a political, it's bipartisan. Everybody wants a cure. I think it's the only bill I've seen in years, that no one argued about, and they all said yes. So, unfortunately, with the new administration, it's kind of hasn't, since last December, they're supposed to have a council. They haven't seated it yet. I've been nominated by 40 people around the world to be on the council, but I don't know if I'll, be assigned or get it. But this is one thing that, we need to fund research, NIH, and that's another thing we ask when we go to the Capitol and everyone out there. Write to your congressmen and women, doesn't matter what party, what local, city, county, federal, state, and tell them we need more funding.
That's the thing. Everybody listening today, and whenever you hear this podcast, do that. That's simple as that. Call your local congressman, your representatives, everybody you can reach out to, and you're going to feel better for doing it.
It only takes a letter. I've done it, and the problem is, if I write a letter, no one, they don't care. But if everyone at the world flooded them, they would care. But it just takes, you write a paragraph, and you email it. You can message on their social media. You can call them, and if you don't get them, ask for their, scheduler and ask for a meeting. Don't just send it and say, all right, they got it, move on. You got to still keep up with it till they do something. So that's the next part. It's send the letter, make the call, but don't just stop even once a month for 3 minutes. That would be incredible. But I think, and I'm pretty positive, if the whole country, did this, answered your call and did and your message and mine and all of ours, and we would probably already have a cure.
I think that's an unbelievably great, powerful point that you
It
don't.
doesn't cost anything. That's
Yeah, right. And you do it. You don't just do one. It's not a one and done. You got to do one, and then you got to follow it up again, and you got to check back and say what's going on. Are you doing something about it? Just keep on it, because when they know you care, that's the essence of hopefully that's the essence of anybody that's got elected into politics.
that's a
It,
different show for another.
I know that is a different show right there. Vernon, do you have any opinions about what's going on in your age group? How is Parkinson's viewed? Do people know about it?
Yeah, oh yeah. Um, but I mean, I think it is very common. I think I've heard a lot about it. I mean, as Michael J. Fox is a famous, charismatic survivor of it with it, and I think that he's beloved by my generation for his amazing acting and his in Back to the Future and all that stuff. Um, so I'm aware of it. I have friends that have, dealt with it, and I think it's just something that we isn't really discussed is the fight to cure it because it does seem like such a helpless thing. And then if someone is dealing with it, you really have so much love and concern for the caregivers like we were talking about. And like my heart goes out to you, George, and like I know that you said you're working tirelessly and it's hard to take care of yourself and things, but I hope that you do find the time and the gentleness to be there for yourself and your health. And I'm grateful to hear that you have a community and you're fostering the ability for other people, other caregivers and other people who have been affected by loved ones having this to have a community with each other. Because, of course, prioritize the health of the person going through it. But it is also very important for people like you who are using their health to protect those loved ones that are suffering to also be protected as well. and to have people that give them like the motivation that maybe the person that they loved once gave them. So that's and I think we definitely need to be, for a lot of reasons, reaching out more to our local politicians, asking them for just some eyes on certain things. Like even just awareness is good. Like even if they can't do anything immediately, awareness is really important. So I think that there's a lot of small things that we can do in our day to day.
That's it. You don't need to have thousands of followers. Just put it on your account if you have 200 followers, because 200 people that maybe don't know. And I think the biggest takeaway I'm getting from today, George, is there's some hope in that they're looking for a cure. Now, do you have any more information about that that we can maybe leave people with before we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot that to be excited about. And I mean, I was at a roundtable with the Michael J. Fox Foundation, and they provided this important information that now we have, more motor. The biggest thing is you need a movement disorder specialist. So now we have 103, which is not enough. Imagine the whole, but we need more individuals going into the field of motor specialty. There's in 79,000 more patients out there being cared for. There's also a lowered screening age eligibility for some of the programs, out there. We want to get more people the ability to be, to find out, to be tested. There's 175 plus drugs in testing right now. Right now, there's not that. It's all levodopa is the famous one, carbon levodopa, and that's the main one. That just helps with tremors if the person has tremors, but it still doesn't, slow a lot of the other issues, and sometimes they can cause even more. FDA has approved an increased number of treatment options for people with Parkinson's. There's three dopamine treatments and two surgical. One is it's the one. It's called deep brain stimulation, and they actually will. You might have seen it. Where it's not for everyone. My mother was kind of scared of it, but there's a lot more innovations and technology. Just keeps improving. That's also helps control tremors. If you can control tremors, it's hard to do anything, unfortunately, and that's not even the only symptom of Parkinson. So there are things happening, and there's a lot more events, and the science is promising. The community is united, and there is a clear path, but we have to have everybody out there, involved. It can't just be a few people or even, 1,000 people. We need everybody out there talking, contacting their representatives. Nice thing is togetherforsharon.com is completely, free. It's another resource. I built it myself because I thought that when I was struggling with my mother, we didn't know who to call, where to look, and I decided why not just bring everything into one site and get it for free, which sounds also today. You'd be surprised. I've spent so many hours in 2025 explaining why I'm doing this for free. And I even talk about advocacy, which is kind of sad for society, but it
Yeah, it's
is
a
true.
statement.
I challenge everyone to go on there. And of course, unfortunately, I have to charge a small amount for any books just because I have to pay to print it and send it. But even the ebook, like we said, I'm giving out now through the holiday completely free. So
Speaking of the book, I just want to show this. There's the book, and that we want to tell you what a wonderful book it is, and it raises money for Parkinson's, and that's what it's all about. Because Dr. George Ackerman is totally dedicated to his mother's memory and legacy. And wow, we couldn't have been more honored to have had you for a guest today, Dr. George Ackerman.
I want to just say as we wrap up, I never say the show ends because after the lights, paparazzi, and camera close, we still have this conversation because we still have work to be done. But I wanted to let you and everyone know that we love you, we support you, we care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I, along with our incredible hosts in this beautiful show, I think will advocate for you, and together I feel our voices are so much stronger. I always kind of end my show with I'm just getting started because although I've been doing it for almost 6 years now, on the days that are, from the hospital, like you too, you got tough days, you have health, you have medical, you have politics, you have family, and then you feel, at least I do, like maybe it's time to step aside and give up. But then I hear another inspiring story or another person out there struggling, And I realize that we have to shake ourselves off and jump right back up and get out there and keep advocating until there's a cure for everybody around the world. So thank you both.
Yes, like I said in the intro, I am on a mission and nothing will ever stop me until there is a PD cure. Nothing. And today, Dr. George Ackerman, we are so proud to stand with you together in this mission. And this is an ongoing thing. This is just the beginning. So we'll be in touch, obviously, for future. We'll get you back again, even to get back and tell us more of what's going on, inform, spread the word as much as we can. And I just really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing your time with us. You are an incredible man, and your mother is very proud of you. I can just tell that. I know she is. And I got to say one thing: my son Vernon and his sister Jackie, they both were my caregivers when I first came home from the hospital, and my wife got COVID. So I was stuck in bed, and these two beautiful kids, well, they're grown-ups now, but we call them kids. But they took care of me morning, noon, and night. It was amazing. What an outpouring of love it is to have someone that you love to being your caregiver. It is something very special. I think it maybe even, I don't know. I think it's the answer to everything. Just got to help each other, right? Take care of each other. And that's what I like to leave everybody with at the end of the podcast is, first of all, thank you for joining us here on Out of the Blue, the podcast. It's our special guest, Dr. George Ackerman. And please do everything we said in this podcast as far as raising awareness. Write your congressman, get on it, send the emails. Don't just send one and done. Follow it up, and check back. And also go to the website that we're going to post at the end of the website at the end of the episode, and also information on how you can get a copy of A Son's Journey, Parkinson's Disease, Caregiver to Advocate by Dr. George Ackerman. And thank you so much. And remember, everybody, take care of each other. Thank you very much for joining us. Out of the Blue, the podcast, hosted by me, Vernon West, co-hosted by Vernon West III, edited by Joe Gallo, music and logo by Vernon West III. Have an Out of the Blue story of your own you'd like to share? Reach us at info@outoftheblue-thepodcast.org. Subscribe to Out of the Blue on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and on our website, outoftheblue-thepodcast.org. You can also check us out on Patreon for exclusive content.